Good to see you back again. Let's complete this playlist. May I suggest an activity, driver?
I've never owned a V12. I'd say my dream car now is a Ferrari F12 TDF, which is an NAV12, but it's front engine. But I think they're unbelievable, death trap, savage-looking things, and I'd love to drive one or own one.
Beautiful. I would go for 812 Competizione just simply because that is the most aggressive-looking Ferrari in the world. I just think it's so sick. I'll probably get hung, drawn, and quartered for saying this. I actually prefer it over the TDF. I prefer the 812, so sorry. What's happening, guys? My name is Becky Evans and welcome to Motorfest, the podcast, brought to you by Red Bull and Ubisoft's iconic game, The Crew Motorfest. This is the podcast where I get to chat with some of the world's leading motorsport athletes and delve into their passions for all things speed, wings and wheels. And the really cool thing is, you can actually listen into this podcast whilst you're playing the game. Today on the show, I'm going to be talking to talented mountain biker and YouTuber Matt Jones. He describes himself as a master of all trades and proud philosopher. A quick look at his YouTube, which is 900,000 subscribers strong, gives us an idea of how passionate and dedicated he is about his job, his career as a pro mountain bike rider, and of course his famous love for all things automobiles. He has got quite the incredible garage, and we're going to find out exactly what's hiding in there. Let's start the show. Matt, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on Motorfest podcast. How are you?
Yeah, good. What a time, eh? Yeah, buzzing to be on this. Thank you.
We're going to jump straight into the questions today, which is one question I ask all of my guests. If you could be a car, a plane, a boat, or a bike, with or without a motor, which would you be and why?
I wouldn't be a plane. Freezing up there. I don't think I'd be a car either. Or a bike, because they just live in the back of a van. I think I'd be a boat. Looks pretty chill and you just waft around, don't you? Even when you're not being used, you're just bobbing about. I think I'd be a boat.
That's the most interesting reply I've had to that question out of all the people I've spoken to on this podcast. You're like, what would be a plane? It's cold up there. Some people are like, yeah, the freedom of it, the tranquility. You're like, nah, it's a bit cold. He's a true Midlander. I always ask that question to my guests because we're trying to see how this choice reflects personality. And for you, I feel like it's very matter of fact. You're very straight to the point, and it kind of, I think the fact that you wanted to be an engineer in a past life before you came to slopestyle riding, it explains a lot, don't you think?
Yeah, that was my plan. I didn't realise mountain biking was a career. I just loved doing it. So I had a spot at university to do mechanical engineering. That was my interest. I'm quite like maths, physics, and I guess, like you said, maybe a bit black and white personality, but yeah, I've probably become a little bit more colourful over the years. But yeah, definitely back then I was just interested in numbers.
Well, let's talk about your discipline itself. So slopestyle riding, break it down for me for somebody, because I've always been things with motors, and this is completely self-pedaled, self-propelled. So talk me through slopestyle riding.
Yeah, you're right. No motors. I didn't know motors for a long time. It's a gravity sport, right? So you build up a load of speed, ride down and roll in, and you hit jumps. You have to do tricks in the air, as complex and creative as you can think of. Link them together on a series of jumps, because in slopestyle competitions they build a full course down a mountain or through the streets of a city. You do as many bangers as you can in a row, land them all perfectly, and that's how you're judged. So it's a creative, independent sport. It's not a race. You're not really competing against anyone, kind of just against yourself. And then at the end of the day, there's like a leaderboard of who did what.
So how did you get to the point where you were like, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to ride really fast off this thing and try and do something crazy in the air with it. Like, how'd you get to that point?
I think incrementally. That wasn't my desire at all. Although we were chatting earlier, weren't we? I've got a son, a 20-month-old boy, who can't even speak yet, but he's super driven to climb onto things and jump off now. That's all he wants to do. Like, he stands at the top of the stairs with a balance bike, shouting down the stairs. As much as it's like people say, oh, I wasn't really like that, I didn't plan to be like that, I can see that that is a personality and a trait that people have now. So maybe I was always that way inclined, but it took me to discover mountain biking, which luckily there were some jumps in the local woods near my house, so that was box tick. Have a mountain bike, got one from Halfords with my twin brother on our birthday, and then, you know, you do just ride off things and see what happens.
Let's get into the nitty-gritty about your bike right now. So let's talk about the wheels, any fancy features, some DIY mods you've got on there, and the day-to-day maintenance for people that are listening to this, and build up a vision of what your bike looks like to them.
So a slopestyle bike is really basic. It's so much more basic than downhill bikes, cross-country bikes, the kind of shiny things people imagine. It honestly has one brake, no rear suspension, just 100mm of front suspension, 26-inch wheels. It's kind of a big BMX because you crash all the time, you bail, they need to be really light. Like mine weighs just under 10 kilos, which is really light for a mountain bike. It's got no gears, so it is really a big BMX. We don't really use carbon fibre much because when you throw your bike at a tree or something, it can get damaged and you don't know about it. So it's mostly titanium or aluminium. It's a really simple setup, but it's essentially built for doing big tricks. Like, I have to run a really, really long brake hose so you can wrap it around the handlebars so many times, because we do bar spins, tail whips, which unwinds it. And then I do like little bodges, like put a bit of rubber inner tube inside my bottom bracket, which is like a crank arm. That's to stop your pedals spinning when you're in the air, because you do so many tricks without your feet on the pedals. It all needs to stay exactly where it is. And then people invented these super, super lightweight latex inner tubes, because when your wheels are spinning, their mass is worth 3 times what it is when it's static. So when you spin a bike round that's in motion, like the gyroscopic forces and things behave really differently, so it's really important to save weight in your wheels and in your tyres. So a lot of people are kind of pushing new ground with what they're doing there with inner tube tyres, rims. Yeah, there's a lot of thought goes into it.
So let's talk about the system of the judging and the points, because am I right in saying that this is a subjective sport, so it's down to the judges feeling how many points that they can award each trick, and then it's a cumulative points at the end which gives you who wins?
Yeah, 100%. That's exactly how it works. To like the layman, I always compare it to high diving. You've got this thing you want to do off the jump and you have to execute it perfectly, and that's easy to see because it's kind of the size of the splash, right? For us, it's honestly down to how your feet are positioned on the pedals when you land, like not really bending your arms and legs, making it look graceful, going really high. But really what you're judged on is the difficulty of your tricks and how gnarly and how risky they are. So a double backflip is always going to score more than just like a bar spin where you spin the handlebars round. And I think the runs that get the biggest cheer from the crowd will often also get the biggest, score from the judges. It is a very emotive sport. You just want to see people take massive risks and almost kill themselves.
So I feel like, in a way, it's slightly similar to drifting, because obviously that's subjective. We have 3 judges and they're judging you on your speed, your style, your line, and your angle. So I can see kind of how these two things could be connected with the style of judging that you have in slopestyle riding. Now, do you find that the judges are very critical of your errors, which can sometimes deter people from trying maybe like a bigger trick?
Yeah, that's interesting what you said about drifting. I didn't know how that was judged, so I'm curious about that. We've also got categories like trick difficulty, amplitude, smoothness, cleanliness, so it's kind of broken down in the same way as drifting. But I always think when you start a run, you've got 100, right? 100%. And they're looking at ways of knocking you down rather than building up from zero. So it's super critical. The judges are kind of looking for what you've done wrong, not what you've done right. And that's very frustrating as a rider or an athlete, because you're like, come on, I did all of these things. And they're like, but you slipped a pedal on the last jump. And it's probably the same in your sport, right?
Yeah, you start at 100 when you do a run, and basically depending on how far your rear wheels are into the clipping zone, whether they're on the edge, in the middle, or right at the painted line, they will deduct you points as you go along. So you start with 100, same thing, you start with 100, and then they're being super duper critical. And as I say, as a driver, sometimes you feel like saying, you go and do it.
Yeah.
You have a go. It's super difficult. I wasn't sure that my rear wheels at 45, 50 miles an hour were not quite on the painted line at the back there. So yeah, I always find that there's 2 ways of playing the game. And is it the same in your sport? You can either be super clean and you can just really be analytical with what jumps and what tricks you're going to take to make sure that you keep those points moving, or you go for the big one. No risk, no reward.
Yeah, there's so many similarities. It's the same thing. You do get the people that are analytical and kind of almost conservative with the tricks they bring to the table, but they nail them every single time, and those people like stay on tour for years. And then you get these mad dogs that come and go, that are balls to the wall. They might try a trick that's never been done. 9 times out of 10 they fail, but on like the epic day when it all comes together, that's the best feeling, when you see someone just rise up through the ranks and do that. I'm sure it's the same in drifting, right? You just get this never heard of driver that just rocks up, smashes everyone, and they're gone within 12 months. You're like, do you remember that person?
No, definitely. And do you have any tricks that are sort of only done by you, or is there something that you're particularly proud of that you did in a competition that all of the other competitors right, I'm just going to go home then?
I was the first person to do a 720 no-hander in a competition. That was in Switzerland. I won that one, which was really cool. And then quite quickly you see other people doing it. Like 3 months pass, people have seen you do it. That's the inspiration phase out the window. They've seen it, that it works. And then you go to another competition, I'm thinking, I'm just going to bust one of those out and I'll win again. And then 2 other people are doing it. And then everyone's doing it. So you have to be like quite far ahead to bring something to competition for the first time. So that was really cool. That was a few years ago. I was the first to do a backflip Superman to no-hander. And then with Red Bull, I kind of turned a corner away from competition. So my career very much diverted away from comps and into YouTube, content creation, projects. And that was an even bigger opportunity to get creative and start building my own courses to try tricks that no one's done before. I did like a running gainer off of this drop where I held the bike, did a running backflip, got on it upside down and landed. That was quite cool, and we made a whole, video series about the process of learning that. So yeah.
I mean, we've got to talk about that. What I like watching are your videos on Instagram, where it's that pursuit of perfection is in repetition. So I'm watching you try the trick, and it's like, again, and it just gets a little bit better each time. Like, how many times do you think you have to repeat a trick until you get it bang on and you get that perfect shot for social?
Anywhere from 2 to 350 was the most I've ever done of something, and that was over weeks. It was a sort of trick where I did post this on Instagram, so if people want to find it, it's on my Instagram. But we built 2 logs out of the ground. I did a backflip, took my feet off the pedals on the bike in the air, landed both feet on these separate upright logs, like pillars, swung the bike out in front of me, and then whipped it back down and used that momentum to then go into a front flip off of them, put my feet back on the pedals and landed. So it was like a really cool trick. I could only do 5 to 10 of them a day because it hurt so much to crash. So 35 lots of 10 attempts, it was weeks. We got that one done. I'll never do that again.
And is that it? Once you complete a trick and it's got a particular level of difficulty, you've got the clip of it happening, you're like, right, sound, I've done it.
It's a sense of triumph, but also the biggest sense of relief. It's like, if anyone wants to try that, good luck to you.
Good luck to you out there.
Yeah.
Give it a go.
I mean, it's the same in motorsport, right? If you want to do something really intricate and epic, the risk of getting it wrong is in tiny rear end or something like that. So, how many trips and epic ideas have been aborted because of, like, you hit something by 5 mil? Surely loads.
Let's talk about some of the tricks that you've done whilst you're actually at home, which is where you are right now, actually. And in your backyard, if you haven't already, guys, checked out on YouTube, Matt, during COVID, started to build an insane compound, which I actually remember when this YouTube build started, and I couldn't believe, like, how quickly it caught fire. Like, that was a real moment for your career on YouTube, and how you managed to actually blend slopestyle riding and creating content and changed how everything is for you now.
Yeah, it was a mad time. I just moved into a house that had an acre of land, and everyone had to stay at home, and I went outside, put a shovel in the ground, and the dirt was pretty good. Like, I've built jumps my whole life, and I realised, like, this is good enough dirt to build good jumps, which already was a massive opportunity. If it was gravel or something, I'd have been grounded. And then just got to work, just with a shovel, stacking up takeoffs, landings, posted a first YouTube video of it, and people loved it. I think I captured this kind of build in your garden thing, like build your dream setup, whatever that may be, and people really loved it, more than I imagined. And then I was fueled to carry on, and literally dug dust to dawn for 100 days. I remember realising it got to 100 days. That was like the fork in the road where I realised that's actually what I want to do. I want to build jumps, get creative, and make videos about it, telling that story. And then 2 years ago, I moved to a farm where I am now, and I've got more land and more space, and I've got a pit bike track, dirt jumps, and this year built a jump sort of almost over my whole house. So that's absolutely what drives me, is building things, to be honest, and it just so happens that I ride bikes, so it's something to go with.
I'd say that's probably the biggest trick that I've seen you do are at your house, period, right? The one where you jump literally over your house.
Yeah, it's like, that's a childhood dream. When I looked round it for the first time, I realised the driveway lines up with the house, and you could put a takeoff up against this flat roof, and that the pitch roof, there's a chimney almost in the way. I was already looking at it, and then months later, actually bought it, moved here, and I knew that that was on the list.
So that was pre you even buying the place. You were eyeing up this setup. Like, I know I could jump there.
Yeah, 1,000,000%. I don't like keep livestock or cows or pigs. I bought a farm to just transform it into a mountain biker's paradise. I built a skate park in one of the barns, which I'm really proud of. A big indoor skate park for the winter. It's like, honestly, the childhood dream, to be honest. No neighbours and build stuff.
Do you feel that your background and your interest in engineering has helped you throughout your career in being able to mathematically make the jumps? Because it's all down to physics, right? When you're doing a trick over a jump, you need the right angle of attack in order to get the right length of flight. And that's how I'm guessing it seems to me, and engineering goes hand in hand with that.
It is, completely. I'd love to say that everything can be analysed to the point that you don't make mistakes, but it's not. And I'd also love to say that I just send it and it happens first go, but it doesn't. But somewhere in the middle, you can absolutely like reduce or mitigate risk by, you know, figuring out how fast you might have to go to land in the ballpark or where the landing is, or what angle if you take off. All of those things can be calculated, and I've sort of moved away from calculating now, and I've done it enough times that I kind of know what shape ramp to put somewhere to land somewhere else and what that speed feels like. I don't use a speed gun anymore. I don't know, you just get a feel for it.
So let's talk about cars actually, because I know that you are a massive car fan, aren't you?
Yeah, I am, completely. I wasn't as a kid, but yeah, I'm so into it now. I can't actually believe I'm on a podcast talking about cars. That's bizarre for me.
No, I mean, you're a self-described petrol head, and like one of your YouTube videos was that I sold my Lamborghini and bought this insane car. You've had C63, you've had Porsche GT3, Huracan Performante, McLaren 600 LT. You've had a few cars during your career.
Yeah, I've been super lucky, like so lucky. The C63 was always the dream car. I think, like when I bought that when I was 20, just almost 21. For the first 3 years I drove a Fiat Stilo, which was epic. The rear seats reclined, it had a massive fuel tank. I was pretty into those two features. And then I kind of started making a bit of money and looking on YouTube and looking on, you know, Auto Trader at different cars, and it's so fascinating how once upon a time you're looking at a certain like category of car, and then it just moved the goalposts. So it started off with like Audi S3s and things that were 8 to 10 grand. I bought a BMW 330d Touring, which was perfect for putting bikes in the back. And then I realised that Mercedes made the C63 Estate, and it had 457 horsepower, like not entry level, but the normal one, and a 6.2 litre V8. And I spent months watching videos of people driving them around London with straight through exhaust and just thinking I want to be that idiot. And eventually bought one. I had enough money to buy a second-hand one. It was the coolest thing ever. And everyone used to shout "Daddy's car" at me when I drove it around, which was annoying because I was so proud. But I guess it did look like one.
Can you pick a favourite, and can you pick one which you feel is like most overrated out of all the cars you've owned?
The C63 is my favourite because it was my dream car, and I did that, and I was proud. I think it's tight. The Lambo I loved. I absolutely loved the theatre of it, the noise of a like NAV10, the power, the fact that it was four-wheel drive but kind of like with rear-wheel biased. But now I've sold the McLaren, and in the last few months bought a Ferrari 360 Challenge Stradale, which that's my favourite by far. It's 20 years old now, but it's so raw. It was the first kind of special, I think it was the first time they took a stock production Ferrari and made a real special version of it. Like Challenge Stradale means race car for the road. Yeah. And I'm really proud of that. And they're quite rare. I think they made less of those than the Ferrari F40.
That's a very different type of car. That's an emotive car. That is when you're looking for that emotion between yourself and the wheel. You know, it's not a car that you can just get in and think about anything else when you're driving it, because the driving experience is your entire thought process. Because you need to hang on to it.
That's exactly why I love it. I'm going to keep it forever if I can. It's not got a radio. It got spec'd like without speakers, without a radio. It's just so raw. Yeah. And I took it to Wales 2 weeks ago and drove like proper Welsh roads, which I've never done actually. I've always just driven cars around my hometown, and that felt amazing. I think what I love about driving, which is exactly the same as biking, is I know this sounds really obvious, but it takes both hands, both feet, and all of your focus and vision, and you have to listen and you have to look. And I don't like find any distractions creeping in, whereas everything else I do in life, I'll pull my phone out of my pocket, or I'll turn to speak to someone, or end up doing the thing I didn't set out to do. But when you get in a car like that and you've got an hour drive ahead of you, it's like it's all consuming, and that's where I fell in love with that.
I totally relate. My old 930 Turbo, I mean, she's only a 4-speed, she's a 3.3 litre straight through exhaust. Like, there is nothing else you can concentrate on. There's no radio in it either, like in your Ferrari. It's all about the driving experience, and it's so visceral. It's the sound, it's the smell, it's the no power steering, it's the big turbo, it's the whole thing. And every time you drive it, your brain, it's like a release and a relaxation for your brain, because there's nothing else to think about other than exactly what's happening right there and then. It's being present and being able to drive as well. It's like therapy. I would say it's like my very own type of therapy.
I'd love to drive a car like that. I remember seeing you bought that and was jealous. You know, I've only had one turbocharged car, which was the McLaren. I've had two C63s, GT3, Huracan Performante, and now this Ferrari have all been naturally aspirated. And I didn't love the turbos in the 600 and because it was my first time, and I think I'm like almost scared of boost, whereas there's people probably like you that are addicted to that. But I prefer NA cars. I don't think I always will.
I think it's a personal choice. I think the turbo, I got that car not simply because it was a turbo car, it's just that was the Widowmaker, like that model with the wide arches and the whale tail. That was what 80s excess was all about. That car has such a story attached to it. And obviously, like, the drift car is turbo as well. But when you drive an NA drift car versus a turbo drift car, I actually would prefer an NA, even though the turbo, you get more power, you get more bang for your buck, I'd say. But it is sometimes more fun to have that immediate power other than having to wait and anticipate, which you do with turbo, obviously.
Yeah, I think proper petrol heads would condemn me for saying I don't like turbos, but...
No, it's personal choice. It's absolutely personal choice, and that's what we're all about. So, with the amount of amazing vehicles that you've owned and still own, so what would be your ultimate dream machine? It can be a car, bike, plane.
Hope you've got that winning attitude, driver.
So, with the amount of amazing vehicles that you've owned and still own, so what would be your ultimate dream machine? It can be a car, bike, plane, and what would that look like? I'm talking the color, the sound, the smell, the customizations. Is there something that you're like, you know what, that's exactly what I need?
It's really interesting that you threw in there boats and planes, because everyone just talks about dream cars, right? I would love to own one of those wake boats where you can wake surf behind it with all your mates, you know, drinking beers on the back and wake surfing. That just looks like too good to be true, having one of those. But car-wise, I've never owned a V12. I'd say my dream car now is a Ferrari F12 TDF, which is an NAV12, but it's front engine. But I think they're unbelievable, death trap, savage. And I'd love to drive one or own one.
Beautiful, beautiful. I would go for 812 competency owning, just simply because that is the most aggressive looking Ferrari in the world. I just think it's so sick. I'll probably get hung, drawn and caught.
Resuming progression on the playlist.
I've never owned a V12. I'd say my dream car now is a
Ready to go.